to flip the camera, and this is where we are. So somewhere with better if you lose connection while broadcasting, go somewhere with better connection. Thank you, Periscope, so much for that amazing tip. It is 8 p.m. now, and you all know what that means. ILoveCinema is live. Hi, welcome to episode 24. Yes, we're on 24 already. Been doing this for quite a while. Hello, thank you for joining ILoveCinema. I'm going to be talking about the latest movie news and the latest movies that I've seen at the cinema here in the UK. So this is regarding UK releases. We're sometimes a tiny bit behind the US, so everything I talk about here is spoiler free. So if I review a film, I will not be talking about any kind of spoilers. So let's have a look if this is actually working. Just so we can get a bunch of people on here, and then we're gonna take it from there. So it looks like we're live. Let me just retweet this from my other account as well. Come on and join. Let's talk about movies, because it's always a lot of fun. Well, it is for me, because that's why I'm doing it. So, episode 24. In the last few days, in the last week, I do this on a weekly basis, I've managed to watch 2 new films. One of the films actually isn't in general release as of yet. I actually forgot to look up the release date. I will check that out later. So let's just have a look if everything is running alright. It looks okay as far as I can see. Or maybe not. Technical hiccups, guys. That is most definitely what happens every single time. Let me just check. Anyway, I want to start off with some film news, as I always do. I usually, the structure of these episodes is, ILoveCinema is, I usually talk about some, there we are. Okay, there we go. We're good. I'm going to talk about film news. That is usually followed by a bunch of films that I am reviewing, films that I've seen in the last week. This time it's going to be Crazy Rich Asians and The Children Act. And then I'm going to be talking about what's new on DVD and Blu-ray, what's new on Netflix UK, what's new in cinemas, all of that stuff. So to start it off, we've got some, and it's been kind of like that over the last few weeks, some not very nice movie news, unfortunately. So one of the things that I've just seen a few hours ago, there's a new Predator movie coming out. I think we're actually getting it. I'm going to see it on Wednesday. I'm really excited because I like the Alien franchise. I love the Predator franchise. It's a lot of fun. I like sci-fi. I love action. Horror not as much, but you know, it's part of it and it's like perfectly cool with me. But now it turns out a scene was cut from the new Predator movie from Fox after the actor or one of the actors in that scene has been found out to be a registered sex offender. Now we have a lot of these news regarding the Me Too movement, abuses, sexual abuses, physical or domestic abuses, whatever it is. There's quite a lot of stuff happening. I think I've not done a single episode of this broadcast in the last 2 months where I didn't have one of these headlines to report, which is kind of sad when you think about it. This one, Fox cut scene from the Predator movie after actor was found to be a registered sex offender. So Shane Black is the director of the new Predator movie. His friend called Stephen Walder-Striegel, I have no idea who that is, never heard of that guy, has a really small part in the Predator movie because he is a personal friend of the director, and as any struggling actor knows, as I know because I am a struggling actor, you need a leg up. You know, whenever you can, right? Any help that you can get is appreciated. So Shane Black, being a friend of his, gave him a small part. Obviously Shane Black, well, it seems like Shane Black knew of his friend Stephen's past. He apparently in 2009, the LA Times I think was reporting it, they found out that in 2009 he was kind of like grooming and soliciting a 14-year-old girl. He also went to prison for it for I think 6 months if I'm not mistaken, and because of that he's also on the sex offenders list. Now, it turns out that this is not something that a movie studio or a production company or anyone in the entertainment industry really can look up. According to the LA Times, they're quoting a Fox spokesperson, so Fox being the studio that is releasing Predator. They're saying, our studio was not aware of Mr. Striegel's background when he was hired. We were not aware of his background during the casting process due to legal limitations that impede studios from running background checks on actors. So apparently studios cannot run background checks on actors. So they could be hiring someone with a criminal record and they would not know. Which is kind of interesting when you think about that you kind of have to, I think you have to divulge that kind of information in the States. Because how often, well, I base all of my knowledge on films and TV shows that I watch. So, but all the time someone's coming out of prison and they're trying to get their life back together, you know, trying to be a good guy or a good girl, whatever. And they're applying for a really shitty job and they kind of have to let people know that they're an ex-con, right? That they've been in the system, that they've been to prison and blah, blah, blah. Maybe they don't have to tell them why they've been to prison, but they have to divulge every single time. They have to divulge they've been to prison, right? For whatever reason, apparently studios cannot run criminal background checks, which is interesting. Something, I think the registered sex offender list, isn't that something that is publicly viewable so that the general public is aware of who is a sex offender and who isn't? I'm not entirely sure. I've never really researched this. But what I thought was interesting, because this guy, Stephen Walter Striegel, he was hired. He didn't even go through the audition process, through the normal casting process. He was just straight up hired by the director because the director is a friend of his, which is fair enough. That happens quite a lot because it's a very small part. The actor is only seen in one particular scene with Olivia Munn's character, who's playing, I'm not sure if she's one of the leads, but I think she is. But here is kind of like the weird and funny part as well. He is supposed to be playing a creep who is hitting repeatedly on Olivia Munn's character while jogging in the park, and apparently not taking no for an answer or something. And then it turns out actually that neither Shane Black nor Striegel were actually divulging that kind of information, that he is on the sex offenders list. Olivia Munn found out, it has not been disclosed how she found out, but she found out that he is on the sex offenders list. He let the studio, he let Fox know. Fox were not happy with this, immediately cut his scene out of the movie because they don't want to be associated with a sex offender, I assume. You just heard what the spokesperson for Fox was saying. You know, I understand that as a friend, you're trying to give your friend a leg up, but the guy, as an actor, you're a public persona, even if you're not a star and people don't know who you are. But you yourself, you are your business, you are your brand. So if you've done something like this, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to come back from that, but you need to do some damage control. You can't just go to prison and then 9 years later expect people not to think about it or not want to know, or go like, oh yeah, 9 years is a long time. We don't really care what you did 9 years ago. Especially considering, you know, what happened to James Gunn about a bunch of tweets. Some text the guy put on the internet and he got fired of Guardians, right? So it's just, I don't know. It's like, I'm thinking, it's like, if I was Olivia Munn, would I want to be in a scene with a sexual offender? It'd be some kind of information that I would have wanted to have before I sign on to something, or I have a scene with someone, but that's just me. So it's interesting that obviously with the current climate, with the Me Too climate and everything being very, you know, everyone is very trigger happy when it comes to shit, we can't be associated with this. Someone yawned the wrong way and we can't be associated with that person. It's gone a bit far, but I have to admit that it's like, in a normal job, you have to divulge the information that you've been to prison. I assume maybe even why you've been to prison. You know, was it like a violent crime? Was it just like a white collar crime? Whatever it is, right? But I thought that was really interesting that Fox immediately there wasn't even a debate. Apparently, the director wasn't even asked. They talked to the editing suite and they were like, that scene's got to be cut. That's it. Interesting. In the same vein, and that is really the bad thing, it's like this time I've got two movie news that fall into this category. Woody Allen's next movie, called A Rainy Day in New York, has officially been shelved by Amazon. Now, I remember a few months ago, it was mentioned that Woody Allen had a distribution deal with Amazon, and I was like, it's interesting that Amazon would want to work with someone like Allen. It's like trying to work with someone like Roman Polanski. A bit potentially problematic, right? But nothing ever happened, right? I think that was last year, actually, that news broke. And then the whole Weinstein debacle happened. And now everyone is like really iffy about stuff. So Woody Allen's next movie potentially will never see the light of day. You know, so Amazon has now shelved this film. They didn't give a specific reason. They are just saying this has been shelved. We're not distributing it. We're not releasing it. But what are the odds that it has something to do with these sexual abuse allegations that have followed this filmmaker around, I shit you not, for decades? Like, I knew about Woody Allen more about the sexual allegations than I did because of his films. I'm not a huge Woody Allen fan to begin with. I never really liked his films. The only one that I really like is Blue Jasmine, and that has more to do with Cate Blanchett being awesome and amazing and captivating and just wow. That I could actually get over the fact that it's a Woody Allen movie. So according to page 6, Woody Allen's latest is being shelved indefinitely by Amazon. It's kind of funny. It's like Amazon, you go into like a deal with someone who for decades has been known or has these allegations hanging around him like dark clouds. And now all of a sudden you're like, shit, yeah, we can't actually release it. They probably thought this whole Weinstein thing is just going to blow over and not going to lead to anything, but that is not the case. So that was really nice to see. I feel bad for people that have been involved in the film. The kind of like it boy of the moment, Timothée Chalamet was starring in it. Selena Gomez, Rebecca Hall, Jude Law, Elle Fanning. Really cool cast, great actors. I would have wanted to see it because of the cast attached to it. But now, hell knows if anyone's ever going to see it. It's really nothing new in regards to Woody Allen. But all of a sudden, he's no longer okay in the public eye. The mainstream has caught on that the shit is not alright. And now studios, production companies, they're catching on. It's like, people don't want to see this. They don't want things associated with predators. And that's exactly what it is. Unless it's a fictionalized predator, like the movie Predator. Yeah, this time the movie Predator actually had a real predator in it. That is kind of fucked up. So it's important that we talk about these things, that we bring them to light, because this shit matters. And it's not because some higher up decides that it matters. It's public opinion that matters. And that's what's really interesting. And that's what's having such a huge impact on everything. And I really, really like that. Now on to normal, happy, nice cinema and film news. Carl Urban has been dishing like a teensy tiny bit on the new not the new Star Trek, potentially the new Star Trek. There was supposed to be Star Trek 4, which is currently kind of like on hold because of the two Chris's and their salary negotiations, right? But there's also the rumor of Tarantino potentially directing, co-writing a Star Trek movie, which has me really excited because I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan. Now, Carl Urban was at a convention a few days ago, and the question has been asked, and he dished a tiny bit, not much. He didn't really give much information. But he mentioned that because of the two Chris's, Star Trek 4 is not moving forward, which is also quite of a bummer, because that first time a female director would have directed a Star Trek film. More on her later. But now Carl Urban is dishing on Tarantino's version of another Star Trek film. So apparently Tarantino's idea is mega bananas. He apparently said bananas. But he also said that Tarantino talked to J.J. Abrams, who liked the script. So he set up a meeting between Tarantino and Paramount, who also liked it, and they want to move forward with it. And famously, it's been mentioned that Tarantino was looking at an R rating for his Star Trek film, which would be the first R-rated Star Trek film, which also has me kind of excited. Apparently the R rating is not because of potential vulgarity, but according to Carl Urban, Tarantino wants to show the real horrors of space and space travel. All the shit that can go wrong, all the shit that has Carl Urban's character Bones worried about space travel, even though he lives on a bloody spaceship, right? So this is what Carl Urban said. You shouldn't worry that it's going to be full of obscenity and stuff. He wants an R rating to really make those beats of consequences land. If it's not PG, if someone gets sucked out into space, which we have all seen before, we might see them get disemboweled first. It allows some breadth, gives him some leeway to do that. To me, that was always one of the things I loved about what DeForest Kelley did. He would actually capture the horror of space. That look in his eyes of sheer terror always struck me when I was a kid. I am so game. Like, to see the real consequences of potential shit going wrong in space. Love it, right? Just like this whole disembowelment made me think of the fourth Alien movie when that alien gets sucked out and it's like, you know, the guts first and then everything follows. Kind of cool. And on to more awesome news. I'm wearing a Wonder Woman t-shirt. I decided to wear that because of this news. Alright, so obviously Wonder Woman 1984 is currently in production. The other week, I met a guy who's like, I'm going to be on Wonder Woman for like 4 days. And I was like, awesome. Well then, say hi to Gal Gadot for me. Now, even cooler news. I mean, I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan. The movie last year, I think I watched it 3 times in the cinema. Love it. I've got it on Blu-ray. Love it. It's just amazing. It is awesome. I can't wait for the second one. Patty Jenkins is back. I would love to work with her. Patty, call me, right? I don't have an agent at the moment, so call me directly. It's not hard to find my number. But now here's the real killer. Aside from Chris Pine being back, I was like, what? How's that going to happen? They're bringing back Robin Wright. And if you don't know what that means, it's like, obviously, Robin Wright, she's like the shit. She had such a scene-stealing performance in the first Wonder Woman. She played Antiope, who is Diana, Wonder Woman's aunt. And spoilers in case you're one of the few people on this planet who has not seen Wonder Woman from last year. Antiope dies in the first 20 minutes or something of the film. She goes out in a blaze of glory. She's amazing and everything. I really, really loved her. Yeah, I think I even have like a little... Yeah, I do. That's how much I like Antiope. I've got a little Funko Pop. She is so amazing. So yeah, she was a scene stealer. She was awesome. She was kick-ass and everything. And I totally believed that Robin Wright was a general of this Amazonian army. And she's going to come back for the second one. How is that going to work? Of course, in flashbacks, right? They're not going to just teleport her into the 80s like they're potentially doing with Chris Pine. Hell knows what's going on there. But her and Connie Nielsen, who played Queen Hippolyta, Diana's mother, they're both coming back in flashbacks, which is kind of cool. Of course, we have been told previously that we're going to see them again in flashbacks in Justice League, and then unfortunately that was cut from the movie. I remember I went to see Justice League and I loved all the stuff with Diana, with Wonder Woman. The film itself was a bit pants. Better than Batman vs. Superman, but still pants. But the entire time I was like, where are they? Where are those guys? And I couldn't see them. And once the film was done, I was like, they said they were going to come back. Like, what's going on? We didn't see them. I was so gutted. So that was a bit annoying. She was obviously a very pivotal role in shaping who Diana is and how she thinks and how she feels and where her principles come from and all of that stuff. She's a really, really important figure for Wonder Woman. And she did a great performance. So I can't wait to see that again. And especially in, you know, the Wonder Woman film. It's going to be amazing. So yeah, Patty Jenkins is directing it. It's coming out November next year. That is, for now, that is what's been scheduled. Other amazing women and news about them. Mission Impossible, I want to say Rogue Nation, that's not what it is. Mission Impossible Fallout is still in cinemas. It's a really good movie. one of the amazing people in it is Rebecca Ferguson, who is the first female, I wanted to say lead, but I'm not sure if that's right. She's more of a supporting character, but she's the first female character in a Mission Impossible film to come back. Obviously, Michelle Monaghan has come. Michelle or Bridget? I think it's Michelle. I always mix those two up. Sorry, ladies. But she's come back. She obviously had a great scene-stealing performance in the previous film, Rogue Nation. She was so amazing. I remember I was just, when that came out, I was going on and on and on how amazing Rebecca Ferguson was. I never really saw her as an action star. And then that movie came out and I was like, what happened? That is awesome. I think I watched that one in cinemas 3 times as well. 3 times is like my lucky thing. It's like if I really like a movie, I'm going to watch it 3 times in the cinema. So she is now joining another movie that I'm mega excited about. Denis Villeneuve's Dune remake. A few weeks ago, I talked about that they're remaking Dune. If you don't know what that is, I personally would say watch the David Lynch version from, is it 84, 86, like the mid-80s. It wasn't very successful, unfortunately, but I remember I grew up with that when I was a kid. And me and my dad, we were watching that on telly together. And it just wowed me because that was before we ever read the books. And then afterwards, because I'm a huge sci-fi fan, my dad's a huge sci-fi fan, we got the books, we read it. Back then, there was only the original 3. And it's just, it's like Lord of the Rings, but in sci-fi. It is epic, it is grandiose, it's huge, it's planet and galaxy spanning. It's kind of like Star Wars, but a bit more cerebral and more adult. There's a lot of shit happening. It's fantastic. And the movie was a decent movie, but it doesn't even remotely come close to capturing what was in the book. Everyone has been trying to, remake that or properly make that. There were a few TV miniseries that kind of got close, but not really. Dune is kind of like Lord of the Rings. Before Peter Jackson successfully filmed Lord of the Rings, it was thought to be unfilmable. And that is what Dune is as well. People think of it as being unfilmable because it is just so big and grandiose and just over the top and ridiculous and complicated, and all these relationships. There's so many characters in there and how they're all interconnected, and it's like palace and intrigue and political machinations and action and religion, and when I say it's grandiose, it is grandiose. It is absolutely fantastic. Now, Denis Villeneuve, after he's done Arrival and Blade Runner, I love Arrival, I do not like Blade Runner, but he's making it, and I have quite good faith in him, even though I'm not happy with what he did with Blade Runner, but that's cool. According to the Hollywood Reporter, let's go back to the headline and not me geeking out about Dune and Frank Herbert's Dune. Rebecca Ferguson is in talks to join the cast of Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune remake. Ferguson is reportedly circling the role of the undisclosed female lead. Now, if you know the books, that can only be one role. And that would be of Lady Jessica. And Lady Jessica is a concubine of Duke Leto, and she's the mother of Paul Atreides. So if you've ever heard anything about Dune, Paul Atreides, he is the headliner of Dune, especially of the first 2 books. He will be played by Timothée Chalamet, which I think he is a perfect casting for that. Seriously, I can't wait to see what he does with it. Him and his mum are basically the protagonists of, especially the first novel. She's absolutely fantastic. Lady Jessica, it sounds like she's, a concubine, doesn't really come close to how amazing her character is. She's very powerful. She's very, this whole strong female lead character. But she is, she makes this entire film. She's the proper counterweight to her son Paul. Together they make this entire thing happen. And while you could sort of say that she's maybe a bit in the background because Paul is the attraction, that doesn't negate how amazing this character is. And I can't wait to see that. Now, one of the things that I thought was really fantastic, I'm pretty sure this is what Rebecca Ferguson is going for, because when I look at what she looks like, she'd be perfect for this type of role. I really hope she gets it, because I'm just so excited just thinking about her playing Lady Jessica. She's amazing. If you like science fiction and you don't mind weird stuff, check out David Lynch's Dune film from mid 80s. I think it was 84, but I would not bet my life on that. So in case you don't know what this is about, it's all about like thousands and thousands of years in the future or something, an undisclosed amount of years in the future, distant future, galactic space travel. There's some kind of like navigators who are warping spaceships through space and time with a mineral called spice, which is basically a drug that gets them hooked and addicted like crazy. It extends their life, but it also gives them a lot of other powers, but it gets them hooked and addicted really badly. And there's only one planet in the entire universe where you can farm this, and that is the planet called Arrakis. And that is a desert planet that has basically desert people living on it, people that live in the desert who have been sort of enslaved. And there are these huge, ginormous sandworms that are also related to the spice. It's like very intricate. There's like so many levels happening of how everything is connected. It is absolutely crazy. It's really intriguing and fascinating. I really urge you to read the book. But on the other hand, I'm like, maybe you shouldn't read the book before you've seen Denis Villeneuve's new film. So I don't know. But I'm really excited for that. And then Paul and his family, they are basically next in line to govern, to reign over the planet Arrakis. Because the emperor, the galactic emperor, basically says, it's like, this family, it's your turn now, and then it's your turn, and this is where this whole palace intrigue stuff is happening, because everyone wants to run Arrakis, because whoever runs Arrakis has the power, because whoever has the spice has the power, right? So it's all about power and money, you know, the same bullshit, just in a galaxy far, far away, so to speak. And it's just absolutely fantastic. And he moves there, and then shit hits the fan because some people are a bit jealous and stuff. So it's hello everybody for joining. So I'm not spoiling Dune for you, but they're moving over there. Shit hits the fan. Nothing goes according to plan. And then Paul and his mom are basically on the run and have to run into the desert, which is where they then meet the indigenous people and some sandworms, and how everything is connected. And it's really fantastic, and how everything like comes full circle. It is a great epic tale of awesomeness and sacrifice, and just the characters are fantastic. If you like sci-fi, you're gonna love this. So I don't really want to give too much away, but one of the things that I thought was interesting is Villeneuve apparently wants to make Dune into 2 movies. He's not going to make 1 movie. He turns the first book into 2 films. And me talking about Dune just had everyone and their dog leave this live stream. Okay, fine. But I thought it was interesting that he's going to do it, because on the one hand, that I understand his choice of making 2 films, or wanting to make 2 films, because there's so much shit happening in this book, and it's the first book, and it sets everything up. And in order to bring even half of that across, you would need like a 4 or 5 hour movie. But having this book filmed in 2 films, that means at the end of the first film there's going to be a cutoff, and then people go like, what the fuck, man, I have to come back, what, a year later? What's going on? So I remember what happened when the first Lord of the Rings came out, and people were watching that and going like, the story's not done yet, what the fuck is going on? Well, it's 3 books. This was the first movie, you know. So it should be interesting to see what happens. I'm really excited for it, not just because of Rebecca Ferguson, but also because I love the source material. It sounds like Villeneuve is really giving it enough time to sort itself out with going for 2 movies, but he might be alienating people who are unfamiliar with the material, so it will be interesting to see. And I'm talking about movie news way too much. Last bit, Bond 25. Last week I was talking about Danny Boyle having creative differences with Daniel Craig, which is why Danny Boyle went bye-bye, see ya. So basically Bond 25 just doesn't have a director at the moment. They were supposed to go into production, I think, in December. So obviously December is just around the corner. A director is usually quite busy a few months before they go into production with pre-production. So it's like, what's happening? So they're shopping around for new people. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, and I mentioned her earlier, S.J. Clarkson, who was rumored to, well, who wasn't rumored, she was associated with the new Star Trek film, which is currently on hold because the two Chris's and the salaries are not lining up with stuff. So S.J. Clarkson, she's a lady who has a huge track record of awesomeness on TV. And she was supposed to be the first female director of a Star Trek movie, which is currently not progressing because of the Chris's and the salaries. And now she's being rumored to potentially be stepping into Danny Boyle's vacant spot of director for Bond 25. And I'm actually really excited for that. It's like, while Star Trek 4 is not progressing, let Paramount progress with Tarantino's bananas version, according to Carl Urban. And let S.J. Clarkson step into Bond and make Bond amazing. Because I think that would be really cool. The other person, hello everyone. The other person that is currently rumored to have a really high profile chance at Bond 25 is Bart Layton, who is the director of American Animals, which comes out tomorrow. With him, I'm not entirely sure. He's more of a documentary filmmaker. As far as I know, American Animals is his very first fictionalized movie, even though it's based on a true story, right? But it's not a documentary. So I'm not sure if he can handle all of that with Bond. Bond is obviously a high profile job. He's not really done much, whereas S.J. Clarkson has, so it'll be interesting to see. It's probably going to be someone entirely different who gets the job. But I'd love to see her take on Bond. It would be refreshing to see a female director doing that. She's also done a lot of action stuff in the TV realm. I think she's done Jessica Jones and some of the other Marvel stuff for Netflix. So she has a lot, like decades of experience as a TV director. And I would love to see her stuff. And now we're half an hour in. I'm sorry, I've been talking about news quite a lot. I want to get into the very first movie that I want to review, which is Crazy Rich Asians. And as always, when I review films, I do not spoil. I hate it when people spoil important stuff. So this is a spoiler-free review. And isn't it just like really mega cute here? Everything is like, it looks like an exotic vacation. And that is kind of what the movie is. So last week I mentioned that Crazy Rich Asians is doing really well in America. It's only just, well, it's not even officially opened here in the UK. I can't remember what the official opening date is. I didn't actually look that up. Silly me. Let's see. Crazy Rich Asians UK release date. September 14th. Okay, so not too far. That's good. Okay, so that should come out shortly. I've seen it on Saturday because Cineworld had an unlimited screening, so I got to see it early, which was fantastic. Last week I was mentioning how well it was doing in the US market. It was a surprise hit. So much so that it's already spawned a sequel. So this is based on books, and they want to make the second book into a second movie just because it is that successful. And I can tell you right from the get-go that John Chu, who's been directing this, he did a really good job. This is one of my favorite rom-coms ever, I think. I'm not really much of a rom-com fan, to be quite honest. So this one was quite interesting to watch. But the synopsis for Crazy Rich Asians, in case you don't know what it's about, so it's a romantic comedy drama. It's directed by John Chu, and it's based on a novel of the same name by a guy called Kevin Kwan, and that was released in 2013. So it's a fairly new book. It's 5 years old, and film stars Constance Wu and Henry Golding, Gemma Chan, Awkwafina, in a really cool role, not like in Ocean's 8. This is a really cool role. And Michelle Yeoh. And Ken Jeong is in this as well. but basically, I didn't really know anyone. I only realized, like, I only knew who Awkwafina was because I'd just seen her in Ocean's 8. And it was like hit and miss, you know. I was like, anyone could have played that role. But in this, she's amazing. She is so funny. It is ridiculous. But the main reason I wanted to see it, other than the stuff that I heard from the US, everyone was really crazy about it, crazy about the Crazy Rich Asians, right? But Michelle Yeoh is in this, and I love Michelle Yeoh. She's fucking fantastic. And the film follows a Chinese-American woman who is played by Constance Wu. Her name's Rachel. She travels to meet her boyfriend's family and is surprised when she discovers they're among the richest people in Singapore. Now, it is called Crazy Rich Asians, right? So it is about crazy rich people who happen to be Asian, right? So one of the things that I was really worried about is like, will I be able to relate to this? Because I am as far away from being rich as anyone can be. Well, anyone in the industrialized world can be. I'm not very rich. I'm actually on the opposite side of the spectrum. So I was like, will I be able to relate to this bullshit? And the answer is yes. Because these characters, while they are archetypical and stereotypical and very over the top and stylized, it's because it is a comedy, it's a rom-com, it's supposed to be fun, but also relatable. And it is just so hilarious and relatable, but also I think it's more relatable because if you've ever seen a romantic comedy, they go by a certain pattern, you know, they go by playing by the rules, you know, like cooking by numbers. I'm not saying this right, is it? Not cooking by numbers. Drawing by numbers? Is that what it is? Oh, whatever. You know what I mean. There's like a checklist. And they go by the checklist, basically. And it's just, it works because the characters are, the actors are imbuing their characters really well. And they're very captivating and just a lot of fun. And the entire film, like the script is really tight. There's not really a lot of fat that I would trim. And it is hilariously funny. It easily passes the 6 laugh test. Easily. This film is absolutely hilarious. I think afterwards, I think I was saying is like, it's adorable. It's hilarious. It's beautiful. It's entertaining. It's just one of the most, I don't want to say perfect because I'm not a fan of the word perfect, but it's such a well done, entertaining film from start to finish. I had a lot of fun with it from start to finish, even though there's a lot of stuff happening in it that I don't understand because I'm not Asian and I've never been to Singapore and I've never played Mahjong. I really don't bloody get it. I've played it on the computer and I was like, what am I clicking on and why is it doing that? I really have no clue. But the movie is done in a way that even though you don't understand the cultural, like a lot of the cultural references, you can still see what kind of effect it has on the people. And therefore you can relate to it. It is very universal. And I really, really loved it. And one of the things I loved about it was really well visited. Like that, there was a lot of people in the audience, which is usually not the case. I didn't expect this to be as busy. That's the word I was looking for. Busy. There was a lot of people in there. There was a lot of women in there. There was a lot of men in there. There was a lot of young people, a lot of old people. There was not one demographic. It was just the entire planet was there, and it was awesome. And I loved it. And people were loving it. And people were laughing and chuckling and going, oh no, she didn't. And all of that stuff. You had a very captivated audience. And they were really rooting for people and really in it and with it. Now, I'm not saying this film is perfect because there are definitely things in there where I was like, why would you do that? That just makes no sense. Or that is just so superficial and ridiculous. You could have given this person a bit more to do, but hopefully in the sequel we will delve into that. This is a huge ensemble piece. Now I'm just going to give you like a rough idea how many people are in there, because there were just way too many people that I can't even remember all of this. It's like I'm looking at this long of a cast list, and these are just the main players, basically. So you have Constance Wu as Rachel Chu, who's the American Asian who goes back. You have Henry Golding as Nick Young, who is kind of like the Asian Singaporean bachelor that everyone is after. Michelle Yeoh plays his mom Eleanor, and she is just... I mean, Michelle Yeoh is always the standout, right? If you've seen... The latest one that I've seen her in was Star Trek Discovery. And she's just amazing. You know, you can just tell that, like, she can eat everyone there for breakfast. No biggie. But she doesn't. You know, and it's just, oh, she's awesome. And then you have Gemma Chan, who I knew from, is it BBC's Humans? She looked really familiar. She played a really weird character, but I loved her. But I'm also like, why did they make her so superficial? It was just really, really bizarre. And then Awkwafina plays Rachel's college roommate or something, and she's absolutely hilarious. She is the comic relief in this, and Awkwafina really makes that work. I didn't know that she was that hilarious. In this film, absolutely awesome. So the film starts in 1995, and we have the Youngs, led by Michelle Yeoh. They arrive in like one of the worst storms ever. It's raining outside. They go into a hotel. She's there with her family, with her small children, and because the weather is being shit, the small kids drag a lot of mud in there, and obviously the people in the hotel are not very happy about that. Like a bunch of Asian people rocking up and just, you know, wrecking the place. And she's like, well, we're here to, you know, we booked the suite so-and-so. And they're like, no, we don't have a booking. They clearly are being racist and they don't want them there. And they're basically telling them to fuck off. And now here is something that after I was rereading it on Wikipedia, there was like a synopsis there. And they're saying, like, after this happens, Eleanor picks up the phone, calls her husband and tells him to buy the hotel so she can have the suite. I didn't pick up on that in the cinema at all. I thought that she called the guy who then shows up a few minutes later, an old chap who seems to be running or owning the hotel. A lord, what's his face? I can't remember, some old white dude. And he rocks up and goes like, Eleanor, how are you doing? I was like, oh yeah, she knew him. That's why she's staying in the hotel. And then the hotel staff is like, shit, she knows the owner. And then it turns out, yeah, the Youngs are the new owners of this place. Can you just like clean this up and blah, blah, blah. You know, this whole like mega up yours. You've just been racist to us and blah, blah, blah. The comeuppance that you want everyone to get. And there was like a few gasps in the audience when the hotel staff were clearly racist to this family who had a reservation in this hotel. And I was kind of like smiling to myself and chuckling and going like, seriously guys, have you never ever paid attention to the world around you? This shit happens all the fucking time. Like, you can have a non-white family rock up at a restaurant and they will be greeted with racism, and it's like, oh, you have a reservation? Well, your name says Young and not, I don't know, whatever Chinese name they would say. So we're like, we didn't expect you to not be a white family. You can come in. The table's actually not ready. We have a gas leak. We have a whatever. They don't want them to go in there, right? So I was not very surprised by that, because that shit happens millions of times every single fucking day, right? But some people in the audience were like, oh, Kim, what the fuck's wrong with people? It's like, really? What planet do you live on? It was kind of, it's kind of endearing and cute that there are actually people on this planet who think that this shit doesn't happen. Or is it because they're blind and not really aware of their surroundings? I'm not sure. So I was in like two minds about that. So that was kind of like the start. So we're shown that the Youngs obviously are minted. They have shitloads of money, right? They own hotels, or they can just quickly go and it's like, oh, they're being mean to us. Buy this. And so I'm going to be their boss. And then we go 23 years later, ginormous time jump, the little kids that dragged in the mud are now grown up. They have just been to college, or they're young businessmen. We meet Rachel Chu and her boyfriend Nick Young, and obviously Nick Young is one of the little kids that arrived in a hotel. And he, like I said, he is the bachelor of Asia, of Singapore. You know, every Asian woman apparently in the entire world knows who Nick Young is, except for his girlfriend Rachel, because she has no fucking clue who he is. So they're in like a restaurant or something and having some food, and he's basically trying to ask her, it's like, look, my best friend is getting married in Singapore and I kind of want you to come along to the wedding, and it's a big deal. And there's like some Asian lady at another table, and she kind of like sees him and she knows who he is, and then she starts this whole like internet, phone, email, Instagram, tweet, whatever tree. So that basically, you follow that. It's like, if you've seen Searching, it's like you use social media really well. The film uses that really well. And she's like, can't believe, it's like, who's this girl that he's sitting with? It's like, I have no idea. And I was like, let's Google her. What, Rachel Chu? There are too many Rachel Chus. I was like, oh yeah, I know who she is. She studied here. She's that. She says so. It's really well done, the way that basically this lady's entire network is figuring out who Nick Young is seeing. The end of it all is that his mother knows 5 seconds after he's asked Rachel to come with him to the wedding. His mum knows that he's bringing a girlfriend to the wedding. She calls him while he's still in the restaurant with Rachel. And she goes like, so I hear you're bringing a girlfriend to the wedding? And he's like, how do you know? I literally just asked her. And he sees the Asian lady leaving the restaurant. She's like, oh God. Asian internet tree, or whatever he calls it, the internet mafia. It's absolutely hilarious because everyone is connected, right? Everyone knows everybody, and because he's such a high profile person, it is just absolutely bonkers. And that sets the tone for the entire film. And him and Michelle Yeoh work really well together. Michelle Yeoh being his mom, playing his mom, and you, as dragony as she is, supposedly being the future mother-in-law, and how problematic that is when you go and meet these people as in your future mother-in-law, who always hates the future daughter-in-law. She plays her with such gravitas and love for her son and her family that it doesn't matter what she says or what kind of looks she gives Rachel, you can always properly relate. She just has her son's best interest at heart, and she does it so well, and she's just so amazing in what she does. She's so subtle. I mean, if you've ever seen Michelle Yeoh perform in a movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? She's absolutely fantastic. So they do this whole best friend's wedding, and that's got nothing to do with the Julia Roberts movie. So they go over to Singapore, and then the first bits start happening, where it's like, we're flying first class. And then Rachel goes, no, we're flying economy. And Nick goes, no, don't worry. You know, my parents know some people. And it's like, don't worry about it. So they're flying first class. So every now and then there's like a little trickle here, a little trickle there. And you realize that his parents aren't just rich. His parents pretty much own Singapore. You know, they are like the title, they're crazy rich. And then she goes to Singapore, and I've never been to Singapore other than the airport. But it's really beautiful, and it's amazing, and they show you stuff. And then she runs into Aquafina, who, like I said, is her college roommate. And she freaks out when she realizes that Rachel's Nick is Nick Young Nick. And it's just the way that we lived through Aquafina's, you didn't tell me Nick was Nick Young Nick. It's like Nick Young, like of the Youngs. Nick, that Nick, your Nick is that Nick. You didn't tell me that your Nick is that Nick. And it's just absolutely fantastic the way that she does it, and she freaks out. Like, she invites Rachel to her house, and her own house, she lives with her parents, right? But her own house is fantastic. It's a mansion, looks amazing. And she freaks the hell out when it's like, you're going to the Youngs' place? No one even knows where the Youngs are. It's like, I've never even seen their house. Everyone freaks the hell out, and it's absolutely like, for me, I would freak out if I walked into Aquafina's house. But she freaks the hell out when it's like, Rachel, you're going to a party at the Youngs? Like, that's like royalty. It's like as if I was like Lizzie, you know, talking to the Queen, going like, yeah, I'll come to Buckingham Palace, don't you worry. Crazy stuff, crazy rich Asians. And then you meet all like the cousins and the brother and the best friend and the fiance and the ex and the everybody and their dog, and it's just crazy. And the mother, Eleanor, and then the grandmother. And as per usual, like the mother and the grandmother have a very special relationship. And then the grandson, or the son, and then the fiance of the son. And it's like, all the relationships you can relate, because it's a rom-com. You've seen this 50 million times before, but you've never seen the Asian version. Because it's like it's like the rom-com that you know from your childhood. The rom-com you've always watched, but someone made an exotic version of it, and it works. Certain things are just a bit alien or unfamiliar, and they work. They make it so much more interesting, and I really, really loved it about it. Not just that we got to see Singapore and how beautiful it is, we got to see a lot of Asian culture, which I'd never seen before, which I thought was beautiful. We only see Asian people. And I didn't even realize that, because they just look like human beings to me, right? I'm pretty much of a colorblind person, and I know that's a problem as well. But it's awesome. And another thing that I notice is usually with these kinds of things, you have like the bachelorette party and stuff, and you have like a lot of women just running around in bikinis, because obviously like the weather is very nice there and stuff. But even though it's directed by a man, it was quite interesting that it seemed to be pandering more to the female gaze, this film, because you have like the men in this film take their shirts off and are topless and shirtless, and the camera is lingering on their amazing bodies before they then put another shirt on. And I thought that was really interesting, as it's a romantic comedy, which usually the target audience are females, so maybe that's why. And I was like, it's interesting to kind of like swap places there. But there must have been a lot of really young women in the audience, because 2 or 3 times that happens in the film, and every single time someone's like, oh my, or something like that. I was like, really? Have you never seen a really well worked out guy with his shirt off? It's like, what? So there was definitely that kind of like orgasmic, oh, amazing. So there was that, which I thought was quite interesting. I loved Aquafina in this. I didn't quite understand why she got cast in Ocean's 8. I didn't quite get it. Character was very like blah. But this one, she almost makes the entire film. Her and Rachel and Michelle Yeoh's character Eleanor make the entire film. I absolutely loved it. She's hilarious. She speaks more with a than she does with a word. It's absolutely fantastic. I really, really liked it. I was so surprised by that. One of the things that I had a bit of a problem with is Nick's cousin Astrid, who's played by Gemma Chan, who you might have seen in Humans. She's a unearthly, beautiful, gorgeous goddess. She is so... That's why she played an android, I think, in Humans, because she's just so ridiculously beautiful. And she plays kind of like a very stereotypical person in there. Like, she's a successful businesswoman. She is gorgeous and beautiful, and everyone thinks she's the shit, because she is. But we immediately show her that she also has a heart. Like, she's in some kind of like Cartier or whatever, and there's a little kid, and she's bored, and she kneels down to this little kid and interacts with the little kid. And everyone's like, oh, it's Astrid, what's her face? And everyone's like, it's like Madonna or the Queen or something, right? Everyone's like, oh, wow. And the kid just goes, someone talked to me because I was bored. And then she walks into the back room, where she then buys a set of earrings for $1.2 million. It's just really weird. And she's married to a guy who's clearly not even half as awesome as she is. Mr. Shirtless, nice bod, looks good. and the stuff that happens with them in their relationship is just so cliche. You can see it coming from a mile away. And it felt a bit wasteful to give her only that. She had a very superficial storyline in this, considering like she's going through some stuff that there could have been a lot of parallelism between what her and her husband's going through and what Rachel and Nick are going through. But for whatever reason, that didn't happen. I'm not sure if that is because of the source material, if this is something the director wanted to do. I'm not sure. It felt like a wasted opportunity because she's a very interesting character. And this whole thing is like she's a highly prolific businesswoman, and she's married to someone who is trying to run a startup. So it's on the exact opposite of the successful spectrum. And that is a imbalance in a relationship that is really problematic, especially if the seemingly less powerful one is the man, because men seem to have a problem with that. There could have been a lot of commentary be made on that, and I think it felt a bit wasteful to not do that. But maybe in the sequel, which we're now getting, which should be good. There's a mahjong game happening in this film at the very end, trying to like prove a point. Like I said earlier, I've never played mahjong. I don't understand the rules and stuff, but the way that it's shot and the way that it's performed, it's between Rachel and Eleanor. Just by what the actors are, the looks they give each other, and the performances that are happening, you immediately understand what's going on in this mahjong game. Even though I've never played mahjong and I don't know what the hell is going on, but you see the intellectual stuff, you see the emotional stuff, you know exactly what's happening, and that is kind of really cool. Like that you can bring that across with a mechanic that is unfamiliar / alien to a lot of viewers who have never played mahjong. I thought that was quite interesting to see. Then there was something weird as like the wedding obviously is happening. No spoilers there because it's the best friend's wedding, right? And there's this weird thing happening there where the bride is walking through water. She's not at the beach, she's in a house. But for whatever reason, she was walking through a lake. And if someone can explain that to me, that'd be awesome, because I have no idea what the hell was going on there. I was like, Jesus Christ, the wedding dress. And I was like, crazy rich Asians, no one's going to give a shit about the wedding dress. It's just going to, whatever. And there's some crazy stuff with the bachelorette party and the bachelor party, where that is happening, you know, like, rich people are just crazy in a certain way that normal people or non-rich people like me and you will never understand. So that was quite interesting to see, and I don't want to give too much away, but one of the things, this is like the Cinderella / Prince Charming story. The Asian version, Prince Charming is some rich dude from Singapore, and Cinderella doesn't know that he's Prince Charming. Like the Pretty Woman story. It was a lot of fun from start to finish. It's obviously very cliche. It's very predictable because these rom-coms go via a certain structure. This film is no different. But because it's infused with all this Asian stuff that I'm not privy to, that I didn't know before, I thought it was very exotic, it was very different, while also being very familiar and relatable. I found the characters very relatable, even though they are crazy rich. But they still go through the same shit. Just because they can buy $1.2 million earrings doesn't mean they don't have problems in their marriage, or I don't know, they have a horrible mother or a cheating husband or whatever other problems everybody has, right? So I thought that was quite backstabbing friends, you know, or a backstabbing ex coming out of the woodworks, or whatever it is. We can all relate to that. So overall, I loved Crazy Rich Asians. I've been talking about this for way too long. I'm so sorry. I think you need to go and see this. If you like romantic comedies, go and watch this. It is absolutely adorable. It's so cute. But it's also hilarious. So if you want to watch something funny, you can easily watch it. If you want to watch something cute and adorable and romantic, you can go and watch it. If you want to see a few well worked out men get their shirts off, go and watch that. If you want to see Michelle Yeoh being awesome, being Michelle Yeoh, go and watch this. If you want to watch something with shitloads of Asians in it, watch this. It's amazing. We need to support stuff like this. I want to see more, because not just that it's depicting minorities in lead roles, but this is also a really good film. It's not just that it's important to see. It's not like Black Klansman, which I still don't understand why I didn't really like it as much as everybody. But Black Klansman is an important film to support, which is why I would support it. This is an important film to support as well. But in addition to that, it's also a really good movie. So go and check that out. Quickly, I know I'm running over. The Children Act. I don't really have much to say about this, other than Emma Thompson is fantastic. In case you don't know what the Children Act's about, as her marriage crumbles, a judge, Emma Thompson, must decide a case involving a teenage boy who is refusing a blood transfusion on religious principles. It's based on a novel by Ian McEwan, and he also wrote the screenplay. So, Judge Fiona May is Emma Thompson. Her marriage to Jack, which is Stanley Tucci, is not going very well. She's an eminent high court judge, and she has to make this life-changing decision. It's about a teenage boy who is a few months away from being 18, so he is still a child. He cannot be treated as an adult because he's not an adult. His parents are part of Jehovah's Witnesses, which is why he is a Jehovah's Witness, and they do not allow blood transfusion because for them blood is life and blood is sacred and blood cannot be tainted. So she can't really decide what to do about this case. And considering the age of the child, she goes and has a rather unorthodox visit to the hospital where he is in. And that bedside visit with him has a profound impact, not just on him, but also on her, because of all the tumultuous stuff that she's going through in her marriage to Stanley Tucci, which is not going very well. She's a high-profile judge. She doesn't have a lot of time on her hands. She basically neglects her husband because she doesn't have a lot of time, and he's fed up with it. So there's a scene, I'm not sure if it's in the trailer, but you might have seen it, where he tells her that he's going to have an affair before he has an affair. And she's like, so what, you want my permission? You're telling me you're going to have an affair? I was like, well, you never have time, and I'm sick and tired of it. And I thought it was quite interesting that I'm not someone who would condone an affair or condone cheating, but I could understand where the husband was coming from, because he was really trying. He was like, well, I want to go out with you, and do you remember the last time we had sex, and do you remember this, and when can we do that, and blah, 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 blah. He's saying that. He's living with his sister, kind of, but she's his wife, and he feels like he's not really in a marriage. He's the only person. He's alone in a marriage. But for her, obviously, her job's really important to her, so there's this problem as well. I thought it was quite interesting because you could make the husband into an asshole really easily, but Stanley Tucci really manages to imbue him with, like, I could really understand where he's coming from, and he feels like between a rock and a hard place as well. Is like, well, I don't want to cheat on you, but you're not here. Like, it's like the tables are turned. Usually it's the husband that is working a lot and that's never around, and then the wife feels neglected and all of that stuff. Here it's the other way around, but obviously it doesn't matter who feels neglected. It's like the person who feels neglected feels like, well, I'm married to you, but I never get to see you, we never get to do anything. But you can understand the person who's busy because their job is really important. And in this instance, obviously, her job actually is really important. It's not just about making money. She is a judge. She has judicial duties that are really, really vital to other people's lives. And one of the things I loved about this film is that, especially at the start, before it goes into the case that the film is actually about, it shows you a few other cases that she has to judge on. She has to decide people's lives. And she does it on a daily basis. This is her life, you know. Everything is high stakes. This is like high stakes for the people that are involved in this, and she deals with this on a daily basis. So she can't deal with a cheating husband. It's just a bit too mundane. It's like, I don't have time to deal with that. But obviously she deals with that while she is dealing with all these high profile cases, which is crazy. And it was not much actually happens throughout the film, other than she meets that boy, she makes the judgment, and then she and the boy have to live with the consequences of that judgment. And it's really powerful and very impactful, really profound, and it does stick with you. And I'm not going to give away what happens, but it comes full circle, and some of it is quite predictable, and other stuff is like, wow, I didn't see this happen. It's really well done. This is more of like a character piece. This is definitely an Emma Thompson character piece. The entire film's about her. Stanley Tucci really elevates her as well. He helps her with, he's kind of like the male lead, but he's kind of like the male supporting lead. This is all, it's like Funny Cow. This is all about Emma Thompson and then the rest of the cast. And she does it so well. She's just so nuanced and subtle and yet powerful. And it's all in the little details and stuff. It's like there's a scene in the film, it's not a spoiler. There's a scene in the film later on where she is somewhere in Birmingham or something at like a judge's conference or something like that. And it's just her. She's the only woman with 3 or 4 men. And they're having dinner in some Victorian whatever, like a really old looking house, and everyone is wearing like, everyone's wearing like a suit, and she's wearing an evening gown, an evening dress. And then something happens, and her assistant comes in, and she has to quickly step out. And as she steps out and excuses herself from the judge's table with the 4 men, she talks to the staff, and she's like, can we get a heater in here? It's bloody freezing, because her dress is sleeveless. So she's been sitting there for like an hour or 2, conversing with these other judges, having dinner with these other judges, not ever mentioning, it's like, by the way, can we get a heater in here? No. Once she walks out, she's like, we need a bloody heater in here, I'm freezing to death. And other stuff that she has to deal with, because she is, I mean, we as women, we're kind of used to living in a man's world, especially in the workplace. We're usually surrounded by like, 90% men. It's very rare for us to be surrounded by 50-50. But her as a judge, that's even worse. It's like there's hardly any high court judges who are women, which is why, like I said, it's like there were 4 judges, and 4 male judges and 1 female judge. So it's not a great percentage, right? So you're really in a men's world. So it's like details like that I thought were really quite interesting. And I've never really looked up what a day in a judge's life is actually like. So that was quite interesting. And the film also takes its freedom and its leeway with making it funny before it becomes tragic. You know, that whole thing is like, the tragedy is so much more profound and impactful when people don't see it coming necessarily. You need to have some levity before you hit people with all the tragic. And the film does this really well. And it's not as much about the story, because I think a lot of people will probably think it's like, dude, yeah, they're Jehovah's Witnesses, but the law trumps the religious views of the parents or the parish or whatever you want to call it. This person's a child, and the hospital is under legal obligation to keep this child alive, and they could, if the religious problems weren't a problem, the religious views weren't a problem. This boy needs a transfusion, and that will save his life. Done. Which makes it kind of easy, but then of course there's so many layers happening there that you have to keep into consideration, and that's what makes this film very interesting. And Emma Thompson's performance is just wow, so you need to go and see that. So if you want something a bit more, you know, touching and crawling under your skin and really powerful and not necessarily comfortable, go and see the children act. If you want something a bit more fun and hilarious, go and watch Crazy Rich Asians, alright? That is definitely my film of the week, Crazy Rich Asians. Really good. It's like for minorities, racial diversity, representation, all of that stuff. And on top of all of these really important things, you have a very, very entertaining and engaging film. I highly recommend Crazy Rich Asians. Now, just quickly, since I've already run over, new on DVD and Blu-ray, on the 10th, we have I Feel Pretty and Entebbe coming out on DVD and Blu-ray. Now, I'm a huge fan of I Feel Pretty. I was very surprised when that came out. You can find on YouTube hashtag ILoveCinema. Hashtag ILoveCinema. There will be a video on there that deals with I Feel Pretty and Entebbe. Not on the same video. They were coming out a few weeks apart as far as I remember. I'm not a huge Amy Schumer fan, but I really enjoyed I Feel Pretty. I had a lot of fun, had a lot of laughs in it. And it was a lot more profound than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a no-brainer comedy, but there's a lot more stuff happening. Speaking of layers, you know, really, really good. I highly recommend that. If you're an Amy Schumer fan, you're going to watch it anyway. If you're not an Amy Schumer fan, take it from this, not Amy Schumer fan. I Feel Pretty was actually really, really good. You can easily get that on Blu-ray. Check it out. Entebbe, not so much. Very, very mixed feelings regarding that film. It's not very entertaining. There are some weird choices the director made in that film that I just couldn't agree on. That weird dance thing, I was like, what the hell is going on? All I want to see is the military operation to get the people out of Entebbe. And that's not really what the movie is about unless you watch the last 10 minutes. So overall, Entebbe was a bit weird. Of those two, I definitely go just check out I Feel Pretty for sure. Now, new on Netflix UK, that is actually a lot of stuff. I was quite surprised. We have Only the Brave coming out, which is that film about the firefighters from last year. Not that great, but it's an easy watch. There's some shit happening there as well. So when I say easy watch, not as in like you don't have to worry about shit and you can just munch your popcorn. There's shit happening there. There's people dying in there. It's about firefighters. It's really, really well done. But overall, it just didn't captivate me as much as I thought it would. There's a film out, The Dinner, starring Richard Gere, which I have personally not seen yet, but it's on my must-see list. I've seen the trailer. It looks really interesting. It's about two couples getting together for a dinner, and then all kinds of shit happens at said dinner. So it's more about a relationship and character piece. Another one coming out, Hardcore Henry, that came out I think 2 years ago. If you didn't see that in the cinema, now is your time to watch it on Netflix UK. Hardcore Henry is a kind of like first point of view film, 3D film. It's kind of like, if you've ever played video games, that's kind of what it feels like. And it stars Sharlto Copley as, I'm not even sure, is he called Henry? And everything is from his point of view. And there's like a lot of shit happening to this character, and you literally see it as if the camera is his head. That is how you see it. And I remember I was watching it in the cinema, and there's like a lot of action and stuff. It can make you a bit motion sick, but I think if you're watching it on your TV, it should be fine. Overall, I thought it was very innovative. It was definitely something I hadn't seen before. So just for that alone, and if you like action or if you like video gamey stuff, I think you can easily check that one out. Especially, you know, if you have Netflix UK, it's not going to cost you anything, right? Then we have Purge Election Year on there, which I also haven't seen yet. I know I've watched The Purge, the first Purge or whatever that was called a few months ago. I really liked that one. Purge Election Year is the one that happened before then. It stars Elizabeth Mitchell, which is one of the main reasons why I wanted to see it, because I love Elizabeth Mitchell. Now it's on Netflix. I'm going to go check it out. Haven't seen it yet personally, so I can't tell you whether it's any good. But I like the Purge movies anyway. I like the one that came out this year, so that was really good. And last but not least, Killing Gunter. If you don't know what that is, I don't blame you.
It's a really bizarre sounding film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've not personally watched this film, but again, it's on my must-see list. I've watched the trailer and it looks bonkers. It's one of those things that's like, it's either really fucking cool or it's an absolute atrocious mess. I'm hearing it's an absolute atrocious mess, but I have to watch it for myself. That is on Netflix. Only the Brave, The Dinner, Hardcore Henry, Killing Gunter, and Purge Election Year. Don't forget, new in cinemas tomorrow, American Animals, The Miseducation of Cameron Post. I'm going to watch that tomorrow. I'm really excited for that. American Animals obviously is the film where what director Layton is considered for the new Bond movie. It's his film, American Animals. And The Miseducation of Cameron Post, I'm really excited for that because it's about gay therapy camp, which should be interesting. It stars Chloe Grace Moretz, who I really, really love. Obviously, the theme of the movie is very important to me because I'm personally gay, so these kinds of things are important. So I'm going to be watching that. I heard really good stuff about it. Mark Kermode seems to be raving about it as far as I remember. So I'm really excited for that one. So thank you very much, Cineworld, for putting that on. And don't forget, Searching is out as well. A few weeks ago, I was talking about Searching, and I think I mentioned it again last week because it came out on Friday. If you haven't seen Searching, drop whatever it is you're doing. Don't bother watching Crazy Rich Asians or Children Act or whatever. Make sure you go and watch Searching. It's one of the best films you will watch all year. It's really, really good. It's well written. It's really tight. Great performances. It's very innovative as well because everything is shown from actually existing cameras in these people's everyday lives. We're showing them through their phone cameras, through their laptop webcams, through CCTV footage, you know, those kinds of things. Everything is actually filmed with actually existing cameras, not someone putting a camera on a tripod and filming actors. You know, that gives it a very realistic feel. And it's quite haunting in that Searching is about a dad who is searching for his missing daughter. So it's really gut-wrenching. It goes under your skin. There's like some shit happening there. It's funny in bits, but it's definitely a drama and a tragedy. And it's just really, really powerful. I love the performances in it. John Chu stars in it from he's Sulu from Star Trek, and it's a really, really fantastic film. And just like Crazy Rich Asians is, you know, the rom-com, hilarious, adorable, entertaining bit, you have Searching, which is the Asian representation of a great drama, and we need to watch both. So make sure that you go and watch Searching. Go and check out Crazy Rich Asians. It's not even out yet. It's coming out in a week. So this week, make sure you watch Searching. Check out The Miseducation of Cameron Post. I've not seen it yet personally, but I'm hearing really good things about it. And those little films also need all the support that they can get. So I hope I'm going to see you potentially in the cinema, maybe watching those two films. If I don't see you at the cinema, I will see you next Thursday, 8 p.m. for more I Love Cinema, where I will be sharing my thoughts on American Animals, The Miseducation of Cameron Post, and the new Predator comes out on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. I will see you guys next Thursday. Have a fantastic weekend. Have fun at the cinema. Over and out.